Hi, I'm Peter Kalmstrom of kalmstrom.com Business Solutions. In this demonstration, I will show you how to build an integration to Fortnox using Power Automate and to get data from Fortnox into SharePoint. So Fortnox is a Swedish, very popular invoicing platform and it can do a lot more than that, but I'm going to focus on the authorization and integration parts. So first of all, you need to be logged into Fortnox, of course. You need to be in the developer portal. If you don't have access to the developer portal, contact Fortnox support and I'll help you with that part. First thing we're going to do is create a new integration. But before that, I'm going to show you that I have created a SharePoint site here where I have a list item where I'm going to store all of my data. And the data I'm going to need is the client ID, the client secret, the base encoded, 64 creds there. I'm going to show you how to do that, the authorization code, and finally the refresh token. That's the data that we're going to be getting. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to create an integration. Fortnox SP customers. Specify what I'm doing here. There we have the client ID. That's the first number that we need. Second number that we need we get by edit, and that's the client secret here. So I'm viewing that, copying that, pasting it in there. Third one is the base 64 creds, and that's these two base 64 encoded. So let's do that. I'm using the Bing base 64 encoder here. Copy the client ID, put a colon, and the client secret there, and then I'm encoding all of that. Great. Then we have our API credentials, base 64 encoded. Great. Now we need to get the authorization code. So let's go into here where it's described in some detail how to authorize your integration. First thing you need to do is to get the authorization code. I'm going to do it as simply as possible. Here I'm going to use this URL and just open it in a new browser and just change the client ID there to the proper client ID that I just copied there. And then I'm going to change the scope that I'm going to be working with. That is the customer. But before I actually run this now in my browser, I'm going to go in and save and say that I actually am going to allow this integration to work with the customers list in Fortnox. So now we have the scope there and we have the scope requested in my URL there. Now I open that and that's going to give me an authorization page in Fortnox. Of course I need to be logged in this browser, make this authorization. So I select the company, I verify that everything is correct. This is the integration name and this is of course the scope that I'm approving. Now what's happening is that this is redirecting back to the site that I said I'm going to redirect to, and that is the mysite.org, which is just a dummy site, but from there I can take the authorization code. Make sure that you get all of it here, from the equals all the way to the ampersand sign there. Paste that in, and now I can save that, and the only need is the refresh token. So now I get into Power Automate. I'm going to do a schedule flow. Running once a day, add customers from Fortnox. Create that one, and then we're going to get the SharePoint item, get SharePoint item, get item, here's get item. Now I'm going to select the site and the SharePoint list, API and the ID. And that's just one, I'm just going to have one item there. And that's it. Now I'm going to initialize two variables, one called AT, and that's going to be a string. That's going to be the access token. And I'm renaming that action there. And another one, that's going to be the refresh token. A string to that also. Now we're going to check if we actually have a refresh token already, because that's going to be the case in subsequent runs. So we're going to check if the dynamic value of the SharePoint item refresh token there, if that is equal to null. I'm typing in the null there, In that case, we're going to do this first part of getting the access token. That is when we don't have a refresh token and we're getting the access token for the first time, and we're going to use the authorization code for that. Let's copy that now first. Let's do an HTTP request. And for this, you do need a premium subscription or a trial of that. The method we're going to be using is a post, and then we're going to get the headers right, of course. First of all, the content type. There's the header content type, and that's going to be this type of content, the application X www form URL encoded. Paste that over there, and then the authorization is going to be basic authorization, and it's going to be basic like that. We just type that in, and here's where we're using the base 64 creds that we did and we saved in the SharePoint thing there. Let's get back here, and then we're going to use this for the body of the HTTP request and change that, and here's where we're using that authorization code. Now that's going to work. Now we're just going to set those variables so that we have the access code and the refresh token. So let's do the refresh token first, and we set that to the body of the HTTP request there. But we're not just going to get the HTTP request, we're going to get the actual value of the request. So as you see here, what we're getting back is the access token, the refresh token, and some other things. So we're going to get that. Let's take that away and go into the function guide, paste that code for getting the body of the HTTP request, and then we're going to do the refresh token. Set the variable ref, and then we're going to do the other one, set variable, and the other one is the access token. Same thing, function guide there, and then access token. Alright, so now we have those things there, and now we're just going to save the refresh token. That we're going to be doing in either case. Whether we had one before, is always going to give us a new refresh token, and we need to save that. We're going to update the item in SharePoint like that. Same site, same list, and the ID is number 1. And then we're going to just do the refresh token and set that to the refresh token. So let's test it. Run the flow. Done. Bad request. What is it saying here? Client credentials were not found. Why not? Let's see. Basis. Basic. Alright, let's try it again. Test. Now it ran successfully, and then let's refresh this in SharePoint and see now we have a refresh token there also. Great. Now we need to do it differently if we already have a refresh token. So it's almost the same thing. This is the last part of the actual access to Fortnox. Another request, I'll just call it with a refresh token. That's HTTP with request token. That's what we're doing here. So now we're getting another refresh token. Same content type. Authorization is going to be basic again, and now basic with a C and a space after, and then we're getting the base 64 creds there. Now the body is going to be slightly different because now we have a refresh token, so copying that part there, the body example, and then we're entering that there, and now we're setting that value to the refresh token. So now we need to set the variables again. The refresh token, and that's going to be the with refresh token, the body there, get the code view to make sure that we have the syntax exactly correct there. Take that away, go into the function guide, and then we do the refresh underscore token. And we need to rename that thing with RT. And another one, set variable, and now we're going to set the access token, and it's going to be the same thing, but just access token. So now let's run this again. Set variable AT, or of course, multiple times with RT. So RT stands for refresh token, of course. So now everything is saved, good. So let's test it now. And now we do have a refresh token, so now it's going to take the right path in this flow. Bad request there. Let's see what the error message says. Refresh tokens is missing. There, we have it there. Let's refresh. We do have it there. So let's see, what am I doing there? Yes, of course. Not the refresh token. It should be the base64 credits. The refresh token is being sent down there. Apologize for that mistake. Let's try it again now. Yes, another mistake. I'm using the refresh token from the variable. I should of course be using that from the SharePoint because I'm setting the variable after. Alright. Test it. Now it ran successfully. We have another, let's check this. We have ending with 2E. Let's refresh that. And now it's ending with 309 there. Okay, that's good. So now it's working both ways, both first time and other time. So now let's finally get into getting the data we want from Fortnox. So here we're gonna use just the customers API here. As you see, this is the URL that we're going to be using there with the URI. So now I'm adding another action. HTTP request. Let's copy that. The method is a get. And here we're going to have the content type, just application JSON, and the authorization. It's going to be bearer, and then space, and then we're going to use the access token that we got here. And that's of course in the variable AT, no matter, that's where we're setting the variable up here, so that we can make sure that we have an access token there. And here we don't need to send a body at all. And of course the name here, HTTP customers. Save that, we need to make that unique, save that, that works better. Now it's saving, yes, let's test it again. So now that we see that we get data from the HTTP customers request here, we can see the raw outputs here that we're getting a body customers object with an array of all the customers, and the one that we want to look at is the name. Then we can continue creating items in SharePoint. So I'm just going to add a new action here, create item. It's in SharePoint, and then we select the same site, and now we're going to work with the customers list. Let's just show all there, and the title is what we're going to be using. So now we're going to get the output from the HTTP customers here. So let's just take that, the HTTP customers body, which is just one item. Let's, of course, we're going to have the customers list on that. So this is the one we're going to be using. This is the part of the code. And then we go into the code editor instead. And then we're going to do customers. Actually, that's the one we're going to be using for, let's do a loop for that one instead. We're going to have to do that one manually. So let's do a loop. apply to each, there we go. And what I'm going to be using there is, of course, the customers there, and then we move this one in there. And then we're creating an item there with the title. And here we're going to put the current item. Let's get the code for that one also. Apply to each there. And put that in the title there as apply to each period name. And that's of course the value we're getting from the Fortnox API here. We're getting the name there, right? That's a string. So let's apply that now and let's test it. And test. And now we should see customers appearing here. And yes, they are. There we go. So that works. Your flow ran successfully. Of course, there's a lot that we can do to improve this flow now. We can, of course, make sure that we don't double, create them all the time, because now there's going to be doubles in that list if you run it again in 24 hours. We can save the code in a more secure way than a SharePoint list item in the same site, of course. But I wanted to stop the demo here because it's already quite long, and I wanted a video that focuses on the authentication, because that is the difficult part, or the tricky part at least. Not that difficult, but it's tricky. You need to get everything just right, otherwise it won't work. So I hope this was useful for you. Thank you for watching this demonstration.